The Texas Parks and Wildlife television series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchases of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $50 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year. Additional support provided by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Coming up on Texas Parks and Wildlife.
I stop in my tracks every time I hear one. Oh, there's that bird right there.
The labor that is no longer needed in here can actually be used outside in the park, hopefully saving the taxpayer some money.
One of these kids, they catch a fish and they're jumping up for joy and laughing. That's what this is all about.
Texas Parks and Wildlife, a television series for all outdoors.
Here in the Texas Hill Country, biologists are keeping track of a Texas treasure.
I stop in my tracks every time I hear one. Oh, there's that bird right there. Good-looking little guy.
The black-capped vireo, a migratory songbird, is on the rise in these parts.
The species typically have a set of spectacles, a little white eye line. The male has a distinct, very tuxedo black cap on his head.
For a long time, the black-cap was considered an endangered species. But over the past 30 years, this little bird has made a big comeback. Black-capped vireos winter on the Pacific coast in Mexico, but every spring they migrate to parts of Texas to build nests and raise their young.
Healthy nesting habitat is very much required for the vireo's sustainability.
Here at the Kerr Wildlife Management Area, vireos can find plenty of prime nesting sites thanks to decades of conservation work.
Yeah, they really like these low shrubs with spaces in between. They can fly in around and catch insects. What great habitat. So this is typical hill country vireo nesting habitat. They like a fork in the tree in a horizontal position similar to this. They'll start building their nest here out of spider webs.
Historically, vireos thrived in the scattered shrubs and open grassland that stretched across central Texas. But with European settlement, things changed.
What was happening here in the hill country, cattle grazing, sheep and goat production, sometimes the populations of those livestock weren't kept in check. They just ate the homes out from under the vireo.
The suppression of fire also prevented the rejuvenation of low-growing brush that they prefer for nesting. And a booming deer population put more stress on the overgrazed landscape. Habitat loss devastated vireo populations, and in 1987, biologists put the vireo on the endangered species list.
Well, the vireo is important, the same as deer are important, the same as all these little animals are important, because if they're healthy, then the land is healthy. And if the land's healthy, we're healthy. And if the land isn't healthy, we're not going to be healthy.
Wildlife biologist Bill Armstrong spent over 30 years on the Kerr. He had a hand in the research that led to restoring healthy vireo nesting habitat in the hill country.
We started a cedar control program. We started fire to control that cedar. We were beginning to experiment around with what they call rotational grazing systems with cattle. A rotational grazing system is nothing more than an organized way to graze animals. We also decided to reduce the deer herd by half. The key to what we were doing is we were beginning to build the kinds of habitats that the birds liked. We started out with about 27 birds on the area. And as we began to develop the habitat that black-capped vireos like, we increased from 27 birds to well over 400 in about a 10-year period of time.
But vireo still faced another threat, the brown-headed cowbird.
Brown-headed cowbirds are a native bird, likely evolved with grazing bison. Because they were on the move continually with grazing herds, they chose to lay their eggs in other native songbird nests.
Every one of those birds was reared in a songbird nest. Its parents don't build nests. Its parents don't raise their young. Some other species cared for that little bird and probably neglected its own.
In addition to land management, cowbird trapping is also used to protect the vireo.
We time that during nesting season. We use live cowbirds. They're fed, they're watered, they're kept healthy, and used to attract other cowbirds into that trap. The goal here is not to eliminate brown-headed cowbirds on the landscape. The goal is to reduce parasitism rates. Reducing that level of parasitism rate is the key to increase the abundance of black-cap vireos.
In 2018, all this hard work paid off.
Black-cap vireos were delisted April 2018. The population had reached a level of recovery. Over 15,000 birds currently estimated of the ranges we survey birds.
We know they need continued protection. In fact, there's a post-delisting monitoring plan we will all be a part of here. It's a treat to see something that's endangered or was endangered. It's made a comeback. It's special.
To see something you started with getting off on its own, I think it's great.
This project was funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife Restoration Program.
I enjoy my job. I like coming to work in the morning because I'm a visitor also. I enjoy working for the agency, I truly do. So I do have a lot of pride in it. I enjoy running the machine and making the signs that go out there, because that is something as minor as it may seem to people. They're just signs, but it's something I enjoy doing. My name is Willie Steinhauser. I'm the sign shop manager at Bastrop State Park for the entire state park system. They go throughout the entire state of Texas, different parks, small or large, and I make them all. The yellow lettering on the brown backfield kind of stands out. It catches your eye easily. It's visible out in the world, durable through the years. Historically, the signs were made with more manual labor involved. Have to spell out the phrase with all these little tiles, get the spacing just right. The operator would bring this carriage down over, trace out on those tiles, and the router would follow that pattern and make the sign. A few years ago, the state parks bought the CNC machine over here, which has just sped things up dramatically. It's more computer driven. I just type in what that sign is supposed to say, save it on a drive. The machine actually comes across and carves out the pattern. It's a printer, if you want to just use that comparison, but it's got a router bit. The machine basically just does all the work. If I have misspelled something in the software, the machine is going to misspell it in the real world. I truly don't think I've ever made a spelling mistake. I check it all the time just to make sure it's spelled right. That is it, but for some reason, that doesn't look right to me. Some of our signs are even in the Spanish language, and I always have to get assistance to make sure that the verbiage is proper, change this or this, and add a tilde or something like that. So those are kind of unusual, but I get up on those. I had a guy in the agency ask me, Willie, what's the most unusual sign you've ever made? There's one for Caprock Canyon that claims to be the official scratching post for the state bison herd or something like that. And I didn't even know bison could read. I had an order for a sign. It was 2 signs actually for Big Bend Ranch State Park. One side said simply nowhere. Big sign said nowhere. And the other sign that goes with it said the other side of nowhere. His name was Kevin. I said, Kevin, I assume these signs go out somewhere in the desert and they're mounted on the same post opposite each other. And he emailed me back, you are correct, and had a picture of himself with some other mountain bikers, one that says nowhere, and then the other picture said the other side of nowhere. So that's probably the most unusual sign I've made. It's treated lumber. It's supposed to last, but obviously in the Texas environment, there's going to be some heat involved. They are in the elements 24 hours a day. They don't get any break. I would hope they get at least 6 to 8 years out of a sign. I just truly don't know. At some point, they're going to split, get damaged by mowers hitting them or trailers bumping into them. It's just kind of part of the deal sometimes. Some are lost, obviously, through fire, as we know here at Bastrop all too well, flooding. Hurricane Harvey did a lot of damage to some of the parks, and I had to get those replaced in a hurried fashion. Even vandalism. The fire at 2011 was actually just out here outside the building, but it was saved. They were just spraying water on it. A lot of sign damage at that time, and it was ground zero for the big fire. This building dates back to the 1940s when it was rebuilt after a fire. The original was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. They built furniture here for state parks. They built boats for state parks, in addition to the sign shop. And the sign shop is the only thing that is still in operation in this building right now. I think by now in the 4 years, I think I've made signs for each park in our system. There might be a couple of parks that I haven't had an order from yet, but for the most part, I think I've gotten them all. It's really not even that dusty in here. The vacuum takes care of a lot of that. It gets kind of loud. I wear ear covers, so if my wife is calling on the occasion, sometimes I just don't hear because I've got ear covers on.
And is it a good excuse?
I'm not going to say that, so don't air that. It's not a bad gig to have. I enjoy doing what I do. I like doing it. Because I make these signs and know that they're going to be mounted out in various parts. I want to make sure that our visitors have a good experience. These signs are concise and to the point, and let that visitor know which direction they need to go to see a certain attraction.
Oh, Dad, see that sign?
My family, we do visit parks.
Yeah, they're older.
I do like to point out those signs that I've made and those that I didn't make. I've looked at a lot of them, so I should know. Not mine. I have said before that I am the best sign shop manager that State Parks has right now. But I'm also the worst one, so take that for what it's worth. I haven't caught up yet. I don't know if I ever will, but I try. I would like to just catch up and not have signs to make, but I'll see if that ever happens.
There you go.
Yeah, I caught my first fish today. I caught another one fish today, and it's awesome.
Hi.
Laura.
Laura, nice to meet you. Come on up. Y'all want to carry your poles? My name is Kathleen Stuman, and my event here today, it's a kit fish for the special needs and also for the special needs adults.
There's nothing more satisfying than to see a 50-year-old adult catch their first fish.
Got one over there. Looks like Nancy got one.
I've been helping her and she's been helping me, and I call her my daughter.
There you go, Lindsay. Nice. Look at it. All right. right, give me a fist bump. All right. I used to go fishing a lot, deep sea fishing with my dad. I enjoyed that and just being outside, and I thought it was pretty cool when a couple of game wardens came over to the boat and they wanted to see the fish in our ice chest, just checking it out and asking my dad questions. And I was just sitting there like, okay, what did we do wrong? And he goes, no, that's their job. And I thought, man, and then they drove off in a boat and I thought, man, that's cool.
That's a big one. 2 minutes. Is that what you're cooking for dinner? Yes. You want to catch another one? Let's catch another one then.
I started watching other fishing events with kids. Thought that was pretty neat, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I started thinking about my dad and how I enjoyed fishing, and I wanted to bring the kids to enjoy that, what I enjoyed, to give back to him. Since he passed away with cancer, I wanted to kind of look at these children that have these needs. Nice to meet you. I think it's an honor to be a part of it, to be accepted as a game warden into this job, and I just wish my dad was here to see it. I think it would have blew his mind because he loved the outdoors so much too. Hey. It makes me feel good inside that one of these kids, I mean, if they catch a fish and they're jumping up for joy and laughing, I mean, that's what this is all about. Awesome!
We're feeding channel catfish today. This is our feed blower. It's rigged up, it's got a motor on it with a blower. We can actually just crank it up, pull a string, and it actually feeds the fish for us. So as soon as they hear the blower, they know that it's time to eat. Saves your back having to throw all the feed out by hand.
For Cody Talley and the rest of the crew at the Dundee Fish Hatchery, feeding the catfish is something they are more than happy to do again. For 4 years here, there were no fish to feed.
Well, yep, we had a big hiccup in production due to water supply. There was a very big drought in 2011, so we discontinued production here just because we didn't have availability to water, and that continued until just last year.
The Dundee facility is one of 5 freshwater hatcheries across the state. Dundee produces mostly striped bass, hybrid striped bass, and catfish. The hybrids and stripers are stocked in reservoirs across the state. The catfish end up in state park and community fishing lakes.
Yeah, got a big one.
That's what I'm talking about.
We could target as many as 2 million striped bass and hybrid striped bass fingerlings just from this facility in a year. When we produce catfish, that would be as many as 100,000 or more in a year.
But several years of drought meant the Dundee hatchery shut down for the first time since it opened in 1927.
All of our hatcheries operate off water rights that can be cut off. So we were without water and didn't operate. Last spring, there was plenty of rain. The water levels in the lakes came up, so we began operations. Starting up is a bit of a process. It is steps and stages. Personnel have to be reallocated and then hired and then trained to do their job. Equipment has to be started and repaired, and all those things take a little bit of gearing up to get going full speed.
It will take several years for the hatchery to get back to full production. In the meantime, engineers are looking at the possibility of water reuse. That should help the hatchery continue operations in times of drought. That's good news for the people who work here and for anglers across the state.
Oh, Ursula! Golly, that's a huge one.
The Dundee hatchery is a big part of the inland fish hatchery program, and we can produce more fish and better support fisheries when this hatchery is operating. So we're very happy to have it up and running.
This project was funded in part by a grant from the Sport Fish Restoration Program.
This is an overwhelming experience when you come out here for the first time.
You just really feel as if you're on the edge of the earth.
There's no other place like it in Texas.
I'm the fitness writer for the Austin American-Statesman. I'm working on a story for my column about what it's like to mountain bike in Big Bend Ranch State Park. Ready to go?
Ready to go. Let's go.
I'm a little nervous, I guess. It's jagged and rough and just seems Wild West to me, but it's beautiful too. The whole route, we're doing 108 miles over 4 days and camping out at night.
Big Bend Ranch State Park is the biggest state park that we have in the state of Texas. It's 310,000 acres and about 388 miles of road, trail, route. We have a lot of trails. Big Bend Ranch State Park is a very big place and there is a whole lot of opportunities.
Yeehaw!
Sweet guys, look at the view of that Chisos in front of you.
It is challenging in places, it's smooth in places.
This is awesome.
What I love about Big Bend Ranch is it has a little bit of everything.
Oh, look at that, you got it. About 1.5 miles left.
Getting out on a mountain bike just lets you cover more ground. It's about all there is to do out here. If you don't like the outdoor stuff, you might as well go back to the city.
When you're on a mountain bike, you don't have to go but 100 yards and you can probably find something that's pretty technical. Some of those spots on our main road are kind of challenging. There's parts where I walk and, you know, I hike my bike and it's okay to do that.
Whoa! Oh! You okay?
I think so. I'm gonna go do it again.
Okay, good idea.
We survived our first day on the trail. It was very challenging.
Can I get a tow from here?
Now I feel pleasantly pooped out and I'm gonna sleep well tonight, I know.
It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people would think it would be crazy to come bike in the desert, but it's very magical to me.
Check out the view.
I think in the next 3 to 5 years, this will be the mountain biking mecca of Texas, if not the southwestern United States.
This is very, very beautiful.
Prickly stuff and tarantulas everywhere. This is kind of like what I pictured Texas to be when I was a little kid.
Another day in paradise.
It's just nice to see that there's still wide open spaces.
This series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchases of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $50 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year. Additional support provided by Ram Trucks, built to serve.